Well, good afternoon to you and welcome to Noarlunga Oval for this SANFL match of the day, the round 13 clash between the top of the table Eagles and fifth placed South Adelaide, desperate to hang on to a top 5 spot. Promises to be a great afternoon of entertainment. I hope you can stay with us right through until 5 o'clock. Well, David Mackay's not here this afternoon. He's having a well-earned rest, probably in front of the TV with a nice warming beverage. No problem with that at all. I've got a couple of the usual suspects with me, though, who can help me through. One of them, the 91 Magarey medalist, Mark Nayley. Nails, your old team. Can they win, though?
Very, very hard for them, Stephen. They're playing the top side against the Eagles this afternoon. I saw them last week, Norwood, very well down here in very trying conditions. The wind was howling down here. Today, well, different conditions. It's very, very wet out there. But the Panthers, they've got plenty of enthusiasm. The coach, the new coach, Greg Anderson. But the Eagles at the moment, it's going along nicely. And Mike
Parsons is also with us, a well-celebrated 1987 Jack Oatey medalist. Bristol, have you played in these wetter conditions?
Stephen, I think everybody's aware that it was better when the ball was in the air. I was closer to it once it was on the ground at the best days.
You might have been relegated to interchange on a day like this. Give us a weather report.
The weather report, well, the man at the Bureau said it's about 11 degrees. He said a shower or two. I might say that we've had the first one and it bucketed down. Very wet under feet. And no doubt we can see there the cheerleader a little bit earlier. Hats off to those girls. They really did a great job. But I think the key thing is that keeping it day on a day like today, the ground isn't actually in excellent condition. Just the water sitting on top. No wind if that stays away. I still think we can get a good game of football.
Well, it's a fair bit of water there. It reminded me of a Crows Sydney final in 1998 when the rain came bucketing down. It was that sort of shower or a heavy downpour before the game. As I said, it's top versus his fifth premiership table. Shows the Eagles are right on the top with 8 wins and just a couple of losses. They're really nails in terrific form.
So they have been. We saw them on 2 weeks ago up against Norwood, and they were second half was outstanding. Last week it was down at Woodville Oval, but Centrals, they're just hanging in there up poor at the moment. Michael, we see South, we're in the 5 at the moment, but really just they need to win this afternoon.
He's had a quick chat with Anderson before the game, and he's enjoying himself. A little bit of success coming into South Adelaide. Followed by West is there. They're just starting to get their game together. Sturt, it's a little bit squeaky at Unley Oval, and then the McGuinness-McDermott Foundation.
And we're lucky enough to see Chris Kluzak in action this afternoon. He's leading the goal kickers at the end of round 12 with 42. I wonder if he can kick 100. It's going to be tough kicking goals today, but Smith, McCardle, Richardson, Steve Hams and Pascoe make up the top half dozen there. So Kluzak in action today, boys?
He's a great kick of the football, and today we'll test him. But one of the things, just looking through that list, was the conversion of the top guys in the goal kicking list. All of them have just got a fantastic conversion record. They're the only one standing, Adam Richardson, who is just a little bit wayward at this time of the year.
South Adelaide will need some goals. They'll have a gentleman by the name of Draper at centre half forward and Dean Brogan mark at full forward. So they've got some height there. People tend to say on these days, I know we're having some fun with Michael before, but people tend to say on the days the ball's on the ground, but the big guys are still important to keep it going your way.
Yes, they're major playmakers this year. Naturally, has been Mills. He's been in outstanding form. I think he's leading a couple of the local media awards at the moment, along with Osborne, who's just starting to find a little bit of fitness, and he's getting his hands on the ball. But they have a very, very good hard running side, especially at half-back. Cobb's in outstanding form along with Talbot.
And the Eagles are changed last week from their round 12 game, their defeat of Norwood. Higgins is on a wing at the moment. I don't know that he'll actually play there. Look at that cross half-back. It's pretty strong, isn't it? Gallagher, Rogers and Shirley might.
Yeah, we've seen them over the last couple of weeks, and they really are developing to a fine side. Rogers has mentioned, here's the Marshall in the back line, the veteran of don't know how many games in the SANFL and the AFL. Jamie Tape's been a revelation this year. Stephen Hall, the state full-back, and Dutchy Holland running out of that back line. He just tucks the ball under his arm every opportunity and tries to get some yards. That'll be really important, but McGregor at centre half forward too. If he can take a couple of catches today, it'll just be telling.
Well, I was going to mention Kenny McGregor because it's a wonderful opportunity for Ken today. Ian Perry was hurt last night in the game against Richmond for Adelaide. So I would think that Kenny would see there's a wonderful opportunity to get himself a berth in the AFL next week against Fremantle. Well, we're all set. We usually say sit back, relax and all that sort of stuff. Don't worry about that. Get excited and get involved in the game. It's going to be one of those really close days. Pick up the game from the first bounce. And your commentator is Mark Nayley.
Round 13, the Panthers up against the Eagles from Noarlunga Oval. Crawshay up against Neiman. Neiman gets the first tap in his direction. As you can see, very slippery conditions. Be a fair bit of soccering this afternoon. Mills comes up with the football quickly onto his right boot, heads up towards half forward. Coming out hard was Jamie Tape. Overran the football. Came back well was Dutchy Holland. Back to Tape. Tape goes for the safety of the boundary line. Will the water on the oval, will it keep it in? I don't think it has. Ball comes through pretty hard. In fact, as we see Michael down there, the Saturday bench, might be the best place to be to start this game.
I think so. Good example there of the rule, the out-of-bounds rule for Australian football. All of the ball to be all of the line. And if it's still in play. Go your hardest, chaps.
There it did. It just sat there as Bevan came charging through. It is very, very wet underfoot. 3 umpires out there. If they stand around too much, they'll get cold as well. Rogers sitting on the back of the pack. Beautifully smothered by South Adelaide. They just try and push it forward and get it inside 50. Now in for the first time. And it all slides across the boundary line and over with Eric Murray. Here's a little bit of... It should be handy.
It's the Eagles bench sitting there. Young, you see. Also Chapman. It's like Jason Dillon, who had a nasty knock to the head last week, but he's back in force, ready to play.
Already a big pack of players around the board. Rogers, I think his intention was pretty clear about what he wanted to achieve there. So too Shirley. Comes towards boundary side. Threadgold, I was going to say overran it, but he overslipped it, didn't he? Looked like Shirley got a quick kick forward. Matthew Kluzak is first there. Oh, gee whiz, you just keeping your feet on a day like this is going to be a real challenge. Coaches are looking for it, but the long stops may not be enough. Brogan puts the pack. Came forward. Gallagher comes wide. This is Berridge now, hands it off. Tape provided the run and went to centre half forward. It's not a bad spot to be. Got some numbers there. Sikalella. Really in now was Crawshay and South Adelaide work it forward.
Good kick by Morgan. It's only gone as far as Jamie Tate. Tate comes out wide to Neiman. He was tackled by Hassel. Good work by Murray to force the error, but well done by the big fella. And Neiman gets it down to Hutchie Holland. He heads up now, just inside 50 or just outside 50. Talbot, he too can't pick the ball up. Chris Kluzak's first shot at goals this afternoon gets across the face. Will it go out and won't? The big fella will get to it before it does. But he's quite happy in these conditions to see the ball over the line. Thrown in. Just a left-hand forward pocket for the Eagles.
In the end, not a bad pickup there from big Simon Crawshay.
Crawshay front position, knocked down, looking for Threadgold. Osborne there knocking the ball out. Again, the Eagles quickly onto the football through Danos. Again, Tackton held up and it'll be balled up this time. Similar distance out. Crawshay again, just his big frame up. He's up against McGregor. Good use of the hand there by Turvey. Gives it across to Hassel. Hassel down the line. Hasn't got it really yardage. He comes now towards centre half forward, top of the square. Matthew Kluzak there. Talbot comes out. Again, Matthew Kluzak. Good hands inside to Pearce. Pearce goes back 47. Gallagher. Gallagher's kick is not good and can go as far as Clohessing. Or Crawshay.
Crawshay just sitting on the back play. Did it okay in front of the full forward, Chris Kluzak. Work it through the middle of the ground. That would be Morgan, gentlemen, by the look of that, as he came towards us. Murray now gets a shove. Brought up the water. The career away does Darren Holland. Floriani, nice give. Back to Holland. He's got some leg speed. Just gets it away. The kick is half smothered because the chase was okay. Murray. Pack of players now inside that Eagles forward line. Sikalella. You hear the call of Sika. Crawshay. Again, Sikalella, that's a free kick, I reckon. No, the umpire's not too bad, letting it go. And again, South Adelaide push it to centre half forward.
All good sport from behind again by Jamie Tape. He revels in these sort of conditions. Back to Gallagher. Gallagher quickly onto the right boot as he's tackled. Good use there by Colville. Gives it across to Pearce. Pearce runs around. He pirouettes. Heads up inside 50 again. Kluzak's there. Can't take hold of the football. Has there with him. Oh, it is. There's a lot laying on top. Darzanos kicks up to the top of the square. McGregor was there, couldn't take it. There also was Pesh. Going back, Scotty Webb. And number 10 for the Panthers, Nathan Turvey, pushes it through for a rush behind. So the first of the afternoon favours the Eagles. We've played nearly 5 minutes into this opening term.
And for all the challenges to the skill level this afternoon, the game's actually started at a pretty good pace, and there's going to be some very tired legs out there come the fourth quarter if these boys keep at this pace in these conditions.
Whoa, that's a hit. They arrived late. I reckon the umpire will have a look at that. Crawshay remonstrates. The umpire dragged back for what would be 50, we'd think. Going all the way to the other end of the square. So David Neiman arrives late and will be. Should use the metric term. I was going to say a game of inches, but a game of centimetres, and 50 metres on a day like this not all advisable. Mills inside half forward, particularly if the opposition is the coach should be most displeased. This is Brogan. It's not a bad pickup for the ball. Drags it back from the Muzzy around the corner. It's just touched, I reckon, through for... Well, the umpire's going to grandstand. This a goal. Pretty important goal, and I reckon David Neiman right now will get some heat.
Yes, it all comes back to that 50 metres that was very hard to get. But just the skill level of Dean Brogan there. Basketball player. I like the boys that play basketball and turn around and play but football. You watch this. The guy's 6'6", and he's just a great athlete. Set up the opportunity. And that's a good shot goal.
They marked him out. Former Bulldog, now a Panther, brings up the first major of the afternoon. Well, one goal to the Panthers. The Eagles are one behind. So 4-5. Imagine favouring the home side. Colville on his left leg, heads up towards Gregor. That'll be a great duel this afternoon, him and Talbot. At ground level, very hard to pick the players up. Eventually the ball's kicked clear of the pack. Neiman's there. What did he do this time? Knocks the ball forward. Coming through hard again, look like Pearce. Good work inside. Number 30 is Andrew Stagg. He goes out wide, but not a very good kick. Well, Beveridge puts it back in his fin. Colville out by himself. Has 10 metres. Again on the left-hand side of his body. Heads up. Scotty Webb's there with Christopher Cluse. Comes down to ground level again. Christopher Hall goes out wide. Again, the wall that the Eagles is building through Ben Higgins, puts it back inside 50. Good strength there by McGregor. Take hold of the football, then tries to set something up. It was on. The ball ends up with Hassel.
South Adelaide working on defence, and that is probably the weakest pocket on the ground. Again, Floriani, he cops it, still gets a little kick away. Neiman, tough one to take. Did the rosin on the hands, working back now and doing pretty well. Is Tapin, pumps it towards half foot, not quite hit the deck. Play on. South Adelaide now have some numbers at the ball. Giga can't take it. Finally, they work it out. Nor can Higgins take it. I reckon we're headed bounce down here any tick of the clock. Shirley. And blow the whistle, goodness sake. The driest state in the driest continent, boys. That's what we reckon.
Is having a drink.
The problem's here for the Eagles. Looks like, Michael, that Pesh is coming off and limping.
Yes.
Not a good start for the Eagles.
Hobbling off, and Greg Chapman coming on for his first run. And he'll get a touch if he plays hard.
Well, Morgan, again, the kick. Very hard to kick the ball anything over about 25 metres in these conditions. The Eagles players looking for holding the ball. A bit hard on a day like today. Good handball over the top by Floriani to Pearce. Pearce comes back and turns his body around. Webber runs the football. This allows Colville in. He again goes to the top of the square. No Eagles players back there. 32 will be Christopher Hall first. Scott's got no players forward. The direction that he wishes to kick. And again, just to the safety of the boundary line. Well, that's the best place to be today, Michael. Sitting up in that grandstand, keeping yourself nice and warm and dry.
That's sure. Those last two attacking options from the Eagles, we saw the ball go deep into the pocket, and then the ball swung back into that spot in front of the square. We've picked up over watching the Eagles over the last couple of weeks. That is the team rule. And I don't think the guys kicking ball are the ones that err. There should have been somebody there to create the space or the contest. And a lone soldier out on the hill.
It's a great performance, particularly when there were some seats left in the grandstand. South Adelaide work back in defence. Mills kicks forward, and again, as Mark said, the back playing Eagles are doing pretty well. Shirley got it from Neiman, goes towards half forward. The thing you do want to do is not overuse the ball and be as direct as you possibly can as Threadgold comes out of defence, pushes it to the line. Brogan, how's that for a shove? And I reckon Rogers slid for about 15 or 20 metres. They play it on. 30 is Stagg. He goes up to the full forward line. It'll slide, and it will go through for one behind because it hit the post. Got a bit excited then.
Well, for our female viewers also, I just saw the trainers come off with a short, so there must be a South player out there, just in his bathers, I believe, or his jocks.
Looks like Andrew Osborne.
Couldn't be his boxer shorts.
No, he's just got them pulled up. Well, I'm not prepared to go looking. I'm just going to watch the footage.
We'll keep our eyes on the football.
You see Nick Pesh there just adjusting the strapping. We saw him hobble off the ground
last week,
5 minutes ago. Could be just that the taping was a bit tight, but now he'll strap that back up and endeavour to get back out in the swim through.
Hall with the kick in, looking for the big fella and even. Oh, well done by Crawshay. Crawshay to Massey. Massey tried it onto his boot. Ends up with Holland. Holland's a high ball. Threadgold one-on-one. Good use there by Threadgold on Pearce. Comes down again. 10. It's Turvey. Gives the ball back again to Talbot. Talbot straightens up the body, hits towards Massey again. over the top. The free kick, no, the umpire calls play on. Eagles come through. They have the weight of numbers here. A good handball across again to Holland. Which way does he want to go? Finally ends up with Beveridge. Beveridge builds the here, comes up towards Kluzak. Good take by Kluzak. Going down, the umpire has indicated a free kick. It's in the back. And will go Christopher Kluzak. So Kluzak from 55 metres puts it up high. Matthew, his brother's there. Good little push forward. The umpire calls play on. Again, the Panthers just push the ball out wide. Threadgold goes for the soccer. 25 at Cobb. Cobb then, he also soccers the ball. Again, the Eagles just pushing it back in. Who's back there? 32. Again, Chris Hall takes a safe mark.
It's played pretty well early, Hall. Deep in the pocket. And wet through. Hope they've got a change of jumpers for the lads at half-time. Colville works back. The structure of the Eagles at the moment holding pretty firm, and Sikalala drops into within about 40 metres of goal.
Again, we see where the Eagles will, once they get out wide on the flank, they'll automatically look into the centre corridor. Time after time they do that, and it's producing lots so far this year.
Well, they might have just tried to overuse it in the middle of the ground a moment ago, but the series of handballs seemed to pay off okay. This is Justin Sikalala going with a torpedo. Didn't quite connect properly. Sitting back and taking a pretty good mark in the chest is Talbot.
Torpedo's probably not a bad option today, literally underwater. But as far as kicking is concerned, you're going to have to hit him just right.
Dean Talbot. It's a kick, it's over the top. Steals out there for the Panthers. He gets the hands of the football. Cobble's there as well. Matthew Kluzak should clean this one up. He does. He comes back inside with a good handball. Eagles just chip forward again, looking for McGregor. But again, see Talbot. It's made his third mark, I think, Dean Talbot.
Started very well.
Along with 3 kicks.
It's a better kick.
It's long and it's strong. Spore from behind, looked like Neat. Comes down to Morgan. Morgan kicks it up high, looking for Brogan. But at the back, Rogers just brings the ball to ground. Holland, very quick over the first 5 metres. Number 7 is Osborne over the top. He goes out to Brogan again. He cleans up, tries to hold his feet. The umpire, just wait for the decision. I think it will be thrown in. It is. So 55 out for the Panthers, and we see the faithful crowd here this afternoon. They really have to be loyal supporters to into these conditions.
Looks like Dean Brogan gets moved out to centre half forward after starting in the forward pocket.
Quick kick forward. The Eagles now get it past the centre line again. McGregor chases us after the ball with some real intent. Crawshay works back there, holding the ball. Big good tackle. And
on with the two, I think. No, the free kick has been...
Well, I suppose at one level you could say you don't fight back, you just get up and take kick. And there's a lesson to be learned there for Darzanos, but the point is, it was just a little bit too touchy, wasn't it?
Particularly that man in white just standing right there.
Exerting his influence. So a boundary line, in fact, they bounced down at half-foot. 13.5 minutes gone, just the 1 goal on the board. South Adelaide are 1-1, the Eagles 1 behind. The Panthers just scrolling down the stats, have 5 hit-outs in the middle of the ground. Neiman yet to get his hand on it. McGregor inside the 50, and Talbot for 4th mark. He's having a pretty good time.
Yes, he is. He's been a couple of times this year when I've been down to Noongar Sunday, and he really has been in outstanding form. He was a 1998 best and first winner for the club. Beveridge couldn't get Cobb does. Beveridge comes up with the crowd, the very pro crowd calling for over the shoulder. The umpire calls play on. It comes out again to Hassel. Good to see him back playing football again. The Royal Blue jumper. That's a better kick. He finds Mills.
Talked about Eagles' structure being okay, but just one little question mark at the moment is that they've probably attacked that full face of the goal 3 or 4, 5 or 6 times. In fact, they've been inside 50, 12 times to the Panthers 5, and nobody's been on that full forward line to be able to make a contest.
Yeah, that's something that we normally see. McGregor, Matthew Kluzak just float around there looking for the mark, but they're starting to chase the ball a little bit because it's on the ground so much. I'm sure Paul Hamilton will have something to say about that at quarter time.
Gee, very, very difficult to put this slippery ball up. Finally comes out to Threadgold. Will be tackled. It's hard to tackle player conditions as well, but Morgan gets the handball forward about 15 metres. A little soccer by Gallagher. It was found Neiman, and Neiman torpedoes the ball. It's back at 50. A little nudge out there by Christopher Gluzak. Allows him a bit of space to take an uncontested mark. He quickly on the boot. It's a long ball. See the distance I think he has as it's the post. The umpire indicates it is. The crowd getting a bit excited there.
Still a pretty good kick from Gluzak. He's kicked it from just inside 50. A very wet and heavy ball. And he's managed to make the distance.
Well, the Panthers, as we said, haven't been inside their 50 as many times. But they still lead, and they do so by 5 points. Morgan, whose form's been excellent, kicks wide, or a little bit too wide perhaps, but Mills was the target. Racing in after the ball is Shirley. Sicalella's also there to give some assistance. McGregor, the cross trio, push it forward towards half forward. Overrunning the ball, Neiman, now Morgan. Familiar left leg, it's got power too, up towards half forward for them. Tape. Kick is half smothered, it comes towards Beveridge. Beveridge is pretty quick, isn't he? Goes through the middle of the ground, got a nice little turn of speed and then pushes it. But Wes Draper's had a pretty good start to the game. South Adelaide now all born. DeMarty deliberately and with some time goes forward, can't quite get hold of Draper. That's messy on the far side, isn't it? And very wet across the side as well too, I might add. Shirley sees it across the line.
His free kick being picked out to young Spiro Darzanos.
Addition should suit Spiro Darzanos. Very lively player, very quick. The Eagles supporters also coming down the south to Noarlunga. In the Oval, just considering the amount of water that it has received over maybe the last 6 or 7 hours, really standing up well. It's the best I've seen this Oval in the last 4 or 5 years. Well, the free kick's been found, so holding without the ball to Jason Bevan. Received the free kick. His Tuggers have got Draper up. There's also got Brogan, who's get the lead now. Brogan will contest this. Good use of the body from behind by Rogers. In there was Murray, who's clearly tackled. Again, over the top of it. Just trying to pick the player up is very hard, but Colville ends up with the football, kicks it 30, 40 metres up. And again, the Rock of Gibraltar and Dean Talbot this afternoon takes another grab. And you get another kick. Puts it up there. Should be uncontested, it is. That's McGregor going back for a safe mark.
McGregor's gone to the ruck. He strips it wide to Rogers, has provided the run. 3 or 4 options are offer. Floriani. And I don't know if you saw that on screen. Matthew Kluzak, you can measure that if you tape measure. That would be a 20-minute slide and probably worth a 10 too if you were judging it. Kick is too wide and it goes out of bounds on the half-forward right. 7 to South Adelaide, 2 to the Eagle, 18 and a half minutes gone.
It is a hard physical slog. One of the things I think the players have to be aware of is the big packs around the ball, but not everybody just jumping on top of the ball. A couple of the boys have got to be nominated receivers, stand off. Once you're in some space, just get some run. Otherwise, the ball's just going to stand there, sit there under the huge pack of players as we see another one developing.
Darzanos goes with the soccer, who's really lucky there not to connect with somebody's body. Morgan's over, he's taking on high for Darzanos. As you can see, even that how cool it is down here, even our camera's starting to fog up. So if you do notice this afternoon,
I was going to say,
the boys are working frantic to get the Windex out.
If you've just tuned in, I was going to say, don't adjust your TV sets. The ground has enveloped in fog. It's been raining very heavily. And yeah, some of those lenses have just fogged up a little bit.
Murray with the football, quickly onto his boot towards Mills, coming hard as Draper. The contest with him and all will be good. Draper will get to get his shorts dirty. Now he does as he goes to the ground. The umpire indicates he will throw the ball in. You see bench there coming on would be Jaden Dillon for his first run coming off is Spiro Darzanos.
Yes, I think Spiro Darzanos paying the penalty for a couple of free kicks given away. Very keen, but just a little bit too keen a couple of times today.
McGregor is in business with Brogan. And he'll have another bounce down. Talk about a bounce down, they'll actually throw it up, but some other games in Adelaide today. Central and West Adelaide playing. North Adelaide have the bye. Murray is in there, so too now is Hassel. His kick is not really effective. In underneath all was Crawshay. Couldn't take Matthew Kluzek. Quick kick towards the middle of the ground. Brogan is there. So too is Beveridge. Like the way he plays. Colville quickly gets a handball wide. It's a good handball too. It finds Higgins, and Higgins' kick just a little bit too short to be effective. Working back and doing okay was Cobb. Threadgold, was that carrying the distance? It was. He copped one, but still it's a kick for a good mark.
It's good to see the umpires just giving a little bit of consideration. They are going for the football hard at it. They are taking a little bit high. Even if they are going to ground, they are rewarding the play going with the ball. It was a 20.5-minute mark of this first quarter. The South Adelaide are on 7. They beat the Eagles by 5. The kick over the top. Just a good little tap on there by Webb. Got a hand to it. Then make sure it's rushed through for another behind was Kim Cobb.
Mark, one of the things I have noticed today is a lot of the players, the ball's not carrying far and they're tending to chip the ball around rather than lifting the leg and getting some distance in the kick.
It's probably got something to do with the fact the ball weighs about 10 kilograms by now.
Good knock on by Crawshay there.
There's a good clearing kick too. South Adelaide just playing the percentages, getting it forward. Gallagher is there, so too is Tate. Lots of experience there. Murray messing around on the ground, and we'll probably have, you would think, with half a dozen players on the ball, another bounce down or throw up. South Adelaide 7, Eagles 3. 21.5 minutes gone in the first term at Noarlunga.
Crawshay dominated this first quarter. He's had 8 hit-outs compared to Neiman's 1 around the ground. Webb should get his boot to the ball. Very hard to keep your feet. Ends up with Cobb. In fact, it was Morgan. Moore kicks it high. Back was DeMasi. Can't take the football in the air. Comes down to Pearce. He'll be tackled quickly if he doesn't get rid of it. He is coming across Tate, looking for Gallagher. Head down over the ball there. Couldn't quite pick it up either. Ends up now with Tate. Tate comes out wide to Beveridge. Beveridge has about 15 metres. But the kick was wasted. It's South again, clearly through Christopher Hall. So Hall, long left leg. Back there was the big fella McGregor. Brogan came in, just get a little bit of space there. But the player, again, as I keep saying, they're finding it very hard to keep their feet in these conditions. Back to Beveridge this time, what to do with a kick coming inside. 50 goes over the top. Dylan's back there, also with Christopher Kluzak. Kim Cobb, Panthers.
The Panther defence holding up very well. 15-9 entries into the 50 for the Eagles, to the Eagles' advantage. Tending to dominate play a little bit, but the squad just not getting on the board for them.
The Panther defence. I wonder what sport you come from. Kluzak and Neiman trying to do their best in very difficult conditions. So too South Adelaide defence, as we mentioned, is holding up pretty well. Beveridge has had plenty of ball, pushes it to where the danger zone is. Matthew Kluzak, now there's some heat on as Higgins went off the ground and missed.
Well, if you saw that ball coming towards your face, kicked off the ground, you'd be ducking pretty quickly, would have think, Steve. That one in the face would hurt.
Indeed. So we've played the best part of this first term here in the round 13 game. A really important for South Adelaide if they're to hold a spot in the 5. And a real test for them. And so far they've held up okay. 7 plays 4. The South Adelaide lead by 3 points.
Lost a good game at home this season. No doubt Greg Gannis before the game would have a point at. Brogan's up high, will just control the football. Eagles players went to the ground, but again DeMasi can't pick it up. 30 with Shirley across to Jamie Tate. It goes further wide to Holland. Holland goes out to the outer wing. The player in Higgins. Higgins down to Colville. Colville couldn't take it. Under a fair bit of pressure there by Morgan. Quick handball inside. 29 is Bevan. He gets out wide, try to find Murray. Then what can he do this time? He gives the handball back Bevan again on his right leg. He's trying to chip it around, keeping possession of the Panthers. Ends up with their captain in Oz. Oz this time straightens up and goes direct, but a good mark on ahead in these conditions by the big fella and Gregor.
Did it pretty well. Flattened the hands up and just took a second bite of the tape. Lots of possession for him. Tears away from defence. That defensive 50. Short pass to Beveridge. You think he's not having a field day on a wet day out here on centre wing. Good looking, neat drop punt pass. As Mark said before, the carry isn't quite there. That looked like a hold. South Adelaide certainly appealing for one, but Matthew Kluzak, I think he got more water than ball there, gentlemen. And that makes it very hard to kick it.
Well, I'll take you back. I think it was North Oval going back 2 seasons ago. It was some great footage that we had of the northern pocket. But I'd have to say these conditions here, the amount of rain we've had this morning in South Australia. It's been enormous. The Farmers would love this. If we hear the quarter-time siren sound here, Michael, you see the Panthers, well, reasonable quarter of football, just lead by that 3 points.
Yes, our esteemed commentator friends use the term arm wrestle. I think that's an apt description. Just a battle to lift your leg and run through what has been very heavily watered ground. But the Eagles, they look good. Once it's off their half-back line, they run, they switch the play. They've got some really skillful players. South Adelaide, they've just got to find a way across that centre-half forward line. They just kept getting held up once it got to centre-half forward. And we'll be interested to see how it unfolds in this second quarter.
We will be indeed, as South Adelaide have just a slender margin of 3 points in their favour. The Eagles goalless at quarter time here, and it will be most interesting also to see if they come back with some nice little swimming caps on ABC Sport in the second term. Until the 22-minute mark of this second term for the Eagles to get their first on board. South Adelaide are 1-1. They trail now by 5 points. They've got the work in front of them to get ahead. And we're approaching time on in the second term. Beveridge. 10 and 5 him. 10 kicks, 5 handballs. You can end up with the possessions on a day like this, you can pretty well.
Spence slipped down to the Eagles' ribs before the game, and he's very heavily strapped on the ribs, so carrying a small injury of some description.
Great for carrying a rib injury, isn't it? Crawshay played pretty well. Pushes it again. They like it fast side, South Adelaide. Interesting that they'll go out there. There's not a whole of a breeze. You can see the windsock in the background, not doing too much old tape. Oh, that was pretty good. Gave it and then protected. A bit of sharing from him. Got it to McGregor. Osborne's in there, so too is Colville. But again, through thread goal, the South Adelaide defence does pretty well. Hassel sweeps across the top towards Morgan, who himself is having a damn good day. Gets pushed in towards the ground. Not many free kicks being paid at the moment. Some tough work. And again on the back play, it's Crawshay.
It's a booming kick forward in the front. They look like Rowe. Couldn't quite get to it. Darzanos does. Left leg for Colville. Colville couldn't take it. He overruns it. A bit of pace there by Jason Dillon. Then slips a little left leg out towards Matthew Kluzak.
Absolutely fantastic from Jason Dillon.
And a good mark too, getting the body behind the ball.
So Matthew Kluzak, a chance to extend the Eagles' lead coming into half-time. Lead by 5 points. This could take it to 11. Oh, that was hard work. Crawshay again takes another good mark.
He's been dominant today, mate.
Just takes 5. Oh, and a good mark by his opposing ruckman in McGregor. Is the ball drying out? The conditions getting better? The players starting to handle it a little bit better.
I hardly see the ball drying out, Mark.
I think the latter. I just think that players have taken a little bit of time to start to flatten up the hand, get accustomed to it. Wouldn't have been too many wet days so far for them. Takes a bit of adjustment. It was good though.
McGregor's backing himself here. We'll kick from about 45 metres. We just Matthew Kluzak, but this kick's but he's pushed it to the right. But it's another score to the Eagles, very important on a day like today. They move on to 1-7-13. The Panthers, well, 1-7.
It's been a little bit of wet football this year, Stephen. I think last year we got through the year with one wet day, but they got some good practice last week at Eagle Park. We're down there. Nice big hailstorm for the start of the game, and then it was for the rest.
That's a great place to be, a footy ground, isn't it, when it's hailing? Just particularly if it's coming, you know, into your face a bit too. That always makes it just that little bit better. Rogers, Brogan. It's been a keen battle. Brogan did a couple of things early, and Rogers has tightened up and been very clean with all of his work, as you'd expect. He just seems to get better with Edge Rogers. Gallagher handed it back. Tape been busy as well. He hands it towards Rogers. Always something happens, doesn't it? We call that 10 metres, not quite. The Eagles now start to work it out. That is a good penetrating kick, and it bounces over the head of Talbot. South Adelaide, though, have the numbers there. Neiman looks to apply the pressure. Good attack on the ball from Kluzak. This would be a great opportunity now from Colville, but he misses by a long way. One behind. Starting to rack up behind the Eagles. They have 8 of them to lead by 7 points.
You just get the feeling the Eagles are starting to handle the conditions a little bit better, getting a bit of run from that half-back line. And if they can get a couple of kicks straight, get a score on the board, there's a possibility that the Adelaide will see the game slip away in the time on of this second quarter.
We're just waiting for the boys behind the goals who they're playing with the foot, a bit of end-to-end. Decide how to give it back to Kim Cobb. Well, let's see what he wants to do. No doubt he'll go for his ruckman in Crawshay. Tries to hold front position. Good work there by McGregor. The high tackle there, Cicolella over Murray. But the umpire calling in once again. Well, this will be a long quarter.
Murray's one player that we thought might have been dominant today, but it just hasn't been his day. He's been around the ball a lot.
He seems to go to ground every time he gets near the football. He wants to go to ground.
Second has been better. Knocked up 7 possessions now. He was a bit unsure of himself, I thought, early, but the further it gone, the better he's been.
Well, inside 50, you see that stat there, 28 the Eagles, 15 the Panthers. Again, Darzanos just tries to set something up. It's not a day for fancy football. Cicolella again kicks it high. Dillon's back there. Oh, the impossible talents there. Couldn't quite touch that one. Oops. Murray will, no voice there with Kim Cobb coming out the hard. Murray again just flanking little plaque. Up to Morgan. Morgan left leg. It's a bit positive. McGregor thumps it back down. The Panthers now have a chance to take the football. Again, they try to get the handball. It really is a day just to turn and get the ball up. And some yardage. Oh, Crawshay. 1, 2, 3. Takes the grab on his chest. Yeah. That's his 6th mark, and he's about his 10th possession as well.
It's been dominant, but this is definitely a Tommy Hay day, isn't it? Just get it and kick it long.
Short sleeve out of Adidas t-shirts as well.
There's a mark.
It's a good mark, wasn't it, by Tate? As I said, very busy. 17 possessions from half back. And Matthew Kluzak just starting to impose some of his influence on the game as well. Goes within about 30 or 40 metres of the goal. Colville's there. So too Floriani needs to be clean this time. He is. Well, gave himself enough time and then just blazed away and missed by a long way. Out of bounds on the full on the far side. So that's a nice place to be, Dean. It's very muddy in that little spot. We've got a margin of 7 points. The Eagles are 1-8. South Adelaide are 1-0.
He went back very hard, Michael Dean Talbot. Showed great courage. Too often play gets hurt, but then it goes from Dean Talbot. Just coming off second best. So the Eagles go in again. It's kicked up. Christopher Kluzak, what can he do this time? He just knocks it over, tries to find Dillon. Dillon can't keep the ball in. It's out again. So coming up to the 30-minute mark of the second quarter. Well, 7-point margin still favouring the Eagles, and Dean Talbot still in the hands of the trainers.
Yeah, the Eagles really starting to dominate the possession of the ball now. I think it's about 13 entries to 1 into the side 50 over the last few minutes. South Adelaide holding on desperately.
Damazzi has had tape all over him at the moment. I mean, the player tape. Colville, within about 15. South Adelaide defence, given the number of entries that the Eagles have had, has been very good. And that just takes some of the heat off too, as the Eagles were mounting another challenge. So, well, this is round 13. South Adelaide had the ascendancy for a while and then lost it, I'd say, Michael, for the last 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think the Eagles clearly had control of the football over those last 10 minutes, but only had 1 goal on the ball, 1 goal, 8. Some inaccurate kicking, but also some rugged defence, probably led by Dean Talbot, the man sort of picking himself up off the ground. But South Adelaide, they really have to get something going across their half-forward line. The ball getting down to their half-forward line, stopping and turning around, probably thanks to the veteran in Rogers. Jamie Tape's been very good. Andrew Beveridge has been fantastic for the Eagles, but they really have some work to do to get back into this game.
Well, it's been very, very good football. You wouldn't perhaps expect too many times you'd have a scoreline of 1 goal apiece at half-time, but I guarantee you it has been entertaining. Look forward to the second half here at Noarlunga. 1-8 plays 1-1 at half-time. ABC Sport, we could say we're at the Aquadome, but we're actually at Noarlunga. Well, if we were at a colonial type stadium, you'd probably drag roof over, but no such luck down here at Noarlunga. So the players have had to endure some very, very wet conditions. But for all, and I'm not talking it up necessarily, this has been a real quality and entertaining game, despite the 1 goal apiece on the board. We'll show you some highlights in a moment. For now, one of the more popular things on net is the ABC's website, and in particular, the footy tipping competition. This is last week's results, the round 12 score. All sixes, bonus points had picking all 4, and a long list of names there that got the sixes. All of them are on the overall leaders board at the moment, but it's interesting to notice that people by the name of Kirkham, Brooks, etc. are leading the way, and they're living outside of South Australia. So come on, you South Australians, get yourself, click onto the website, get the footy tipping competition and see if you can't get yourself a prize at the end of the season. The website address, if you're wondering, is local.abc.net.au/SA footy to get your footy tips in, or just to have a look around the website. I said it's a pretty entertaining first half of footy. Mark Nayley is going to dissect it with me now before the start of the second half. And Mark, 2 goals only means the highlights have been rare, but it has been quality. What highlights did you see yourself?
Yeah, what's the surprise so far has been the big play, and Crawshay especially, being quite damaging in the air. He's taken 6 marks up to half-time, and McGregor, he hasn't got his hands to the ball on too many occasions, but he really has been in the air, and he has given his forward lines a bit of a target. But also, I think the little players on both sides, Beveridge has been outstanding through the middle, and also Morgan, I think he's the highest a possession winner up to half-time with 21. He too has been outstanding.
Who hasn't seen much of the ball, but did score South Adelaide's first goal was Demasi at half-forward. Very rare commodities, precious commodities, these goals at the moment, as you can imagine. You can see the conditions. That's a great pick-up from Brogan, and Demasi around the corner. It was midway through the first term, and it took the Eagles a long time, Mark, to get it back.
It's just so important goals in these conditions. We see the Eagles today, I think they're up to half-time. They've actually 9 shots on goal with 8 behinds now. They just have to convert a couple more of those in the second half, and they win this game pretty easily. But the Panthers, I mean, they haven't stopped trying. I mean, their forward line isn't working that well, but there's a second half of football to go, and I'm sure that no doubt that Greg Hansen half-time would have put something in place to make sure they can kick a few more goals.
Well, Nick Pesh is missing, but so too Ben Higgins through that second term. Early in the second term, about the 3-minute mark, and was dragged to the ground and dumped very heavily. Now, it was one of those sickening things, and we sent Michael Parsons down, and in fact, Michael just jumped up and went straight down and to check it out. Found that they sent him off with some precautionary x-rays, but the good news is, if you're watching, that he's okay. They're just sending him off with some precautionary x-rays, and hopefully he's going to be okay. Michael Parsons, but did look a bit nasty time, didn't it?
Yeah, certainly did, Stephen, but yeah, just had a word with the doctor. The doctor's is reasonably confident that there's nothing particularly wrong with Ben Higgins, but as you say, have to be precautionary these days, and they've sent him down to the Lunga Centre for some x-rays. Nick Pesh had a quick word to him at half-time as well, and he's very disappointed that he's pulled another calf muscle and probably be sitting out for another 2 or 3 weeks. So Nick Pesh, great little player, but really is struggling to string some games together.
And it's till the 22-minute mark of the second term for the Eagles to score their first goal. At 8 points on the board at that stage. Finally it came from Kluzak.
It's a good build up here again. A good mark by Christopher Kluzak there. We might have mentioned in the call about the glove. Well, he's the only player out there this afternoon that is wearing a glove. That may have been an advantage then of taking that good mark, but he was quite happy with that, and that put the Eagles in front. You can see Nicholas Pesh there. He was just saying to me down the race before that he's put 10 games together this year so far. He was quite happy about that. Tearing a coat. You can see the look on his face there. A little bit dejected. And I will, Michael said, it'll be a couple of weeks before he'll be back playing, but he's an outstanding player. And with the Eagles the way they're sitting at the moment, no doubt they'll be involved in this year's finals campaign, and he'll play a very important part.
All set for the start of the second half here. ABC Sport bringing you the Red 13 game between South Adelaide and the Eagles. South Adelaide are in fifth spot. The Eagles are in top spot. Can South Adelaide just cement their spot for the time being in that top 5? We'll know in about an hour's time. Still very, very wet. Not as wet as we started, but as you can see there, it's just slushed up a little bit. Mills has been very effective so far in this game. Gallagher got a push, no free kick forthcoming. They work it out. Rogers has been very, very good. Every time he's handled the ball, he's done so with some assuredness. Gallagher. Smother from Mills is very good also. The Eagles start to work it out. They're a little indirect at the start, but they then started to go to this area here, the danger zone.
Oh, good mark.
But Crawshay played beautifully.
Just great carries there by Crawshay. You could hear the plus coming from behind. Just stood his ground and took a good chase. He had Matthew Kluzak and his brother Christopher Both looking for the spoil.
Comes down to Hall, and his kick forward is going to probably find the boundary line, you'd imagine. It does eventually. So it's wet. There is no wind down here, so all that the spectators need to do is to find some cover. And I must admit, it's amazing, as you can see the windsock there just flopping about. Not a lot of wind. It's amazing how tight your boots come when you've got three pair of socks on. Big pack of players. Nothing very clean and all that. We were remarking before about the quality of the skill level, which has been very, very good despite the conditions. But we have seen the odd pack develop, and it's been hard to get it out of there. Working back and playing very well today is Jamie Tate.
He's been good at. We talk about best players up to half time. Jamie Tate is high set, but as we give the player a wrap, as they usually do, they let the commentators down and kicks that ball out of bounds on the full. Now Derek Murray will take the free kick. Some possessions up to half time, a couple of marks, and that's called to play on now. Kicks towards centre half forward, comes down. Hassel takes it. Crawshay just needs to get boot the ball, looks to give off. Now decides to take my advice and does kick up forward again. Getting front and setting, couldn't quite take it there. It was Stagg. Andrew Osmond's over the top of that football. And we'll just wait now for the man in white to wander across, present himself, and throw the ball into the air. Well, what we'd have to say there'd be, what, 16, 17, 18, maybe 20 players around this throw up. Over the top was Talbot, ducking his head as Beveridge. He has to be penalised for this. The umpire agrees with me and decides to give the free kick. It should be taken, it is, by Cobb.
Had plenty of opportunity, didn't he? Just dropped it out. For all that, he's been one of the best players on the ground, Beveridge. This first term just sat out wide on the grandstand side, and the Eagles were quite prepared to go through him. South Adelaide seemed reluctant to pick him up, and as a result, he's racked up over 15 possessions in the first half. Short pass. Don't know the wisdom of that, because he wasn't free enough to play on. Tapers there as well. Watch him go for the boundary line. Just gets a little bit of extra distance. Can't quite get a handle on it. Ah, well. I tell you what, if you've got such some fizz out there today, it might help just as much as having the sprigs.
We see Beveridge there just limping. He's got the hands of the trains at this stage. May have twisted an ankle with that free kick that was given against him. Morgan comes over. He's taken high. The umpire calls play on. Goes for the second effort. Colville's got water in the eyes, or a bit of mud in the eyes, possibly, as the ball's just out in front of us here in the commentary position. No change to the score. We played nearly 4 minutes into this third quarter. Colville been good. Crawshay from behind, gets his hands to the ball again. Merton for his first touch of the afternoon puts the ball up forward again. Osmond can't get hold of a Beveridge. Recover from that injury. He's held out the football now, brings it around. Oh, good coach by Merton. Couldn't quite finish with it. McGregor comes up with the ball, and Mark nearly taken there by Rowe. Chow nearly takes it. Comes up for a second, left leg, goes for the boundary line. Well, it's turning into a game of soccer here, this stage of the game. Aggressive over the top of Colville there was Rowe. Cicolella comes up with it. Now he kicks into space, running hard into it. It'll be Chapman with Darzanos. Darzanos just sockets it forward, just needs to pick it up. He can run into an open goal here. He puts it high. That's a very important goal by Darzanos. Very important one to the side.
Yes, we saw at the end of that second quarter the Eagles start to control possession of the ball. Inside 50, they've been there 34 times compared to South Adelaide 15. And you just got the feeling that if they could get a bit of a run on early in the third quarter, some clean possession resulting in goal, but they could really run away with the game. The third quarter has in fact started to the advantage of the Eagles with a good goal from Spiro Darzanos. But the good news is, Steve and I have just walked up the back of the comp stand, up the steps, and it's nice blue sky out across the sea, so we'll only see the conditions improve from here.
Well, maybe. Call me a pessimist, but give it 5 minutes and it might go black again. Up towards the full forward line it goes for the Panthers. They really need one to get themselves motoring again early. Got to kick away. The umpire's found a free kick. I reckon he thought it was an illegal Shepherd. And Andrew Osborne's going to have a crack at it from about 20 metres out, but it's one heck of an angle, a tough one to get through. They started with another new ball here at half-time, so it will be reasonably okay still. By the end of that second term, the ball was Probably 4 or 5 kilograms, I'd say. Now, you can just see him sneaking around there.
Take another 6 inches, thank you.
So look at it with the left leg, and it's a beautiful kick. So how's that? We get 1 goal in the first term, a goal in the second term, and here we are in the early stages. We've doubled the tally. 2-8 plays 2-1.
Yeah, Dutchy Holland very upset with the decision. I don't think we're going to quite catch this illegal shepherd on counter. No, just probably got into the back there of Andrew Osborne. And Andrew Osborne was very pleased to stand up, and it's a good kick on the left foot. Look at that. Wrong side of the ground. He cribbed a few inches, watched it carefully onto the boot, and that's a very important goal for South Adelaide. Keeps them in the game.
Crawshay again gets his hands on the ball. Chapman quickly through the midfield. Stalella will put this ball inside 50. Where's Christopher Kluzak? Front position comes down to Matthew. Good spoil by Talbot. Merton comes up with it. Left leg heads for the boundary line. Finds it.
We just saw Merton there kicking the goal. I also noticed a P. Merton, number 2 on the local.footy.net tipping, and I wondered if it is Mr. Phil Merton, South Adelaide player.
Could well be.
McGregor for position. Over the top was Merton again. Coming through hard. Scratcher, Mills. Good tackle. Floriani, he's taken by Webb. He just gets up, holding his back. A little bit of pain there, Floriani. Now goes ground. Well, if you commit yourself to the eyes of Floriani, occasionally you have to come off second best.
McGregor got the thump down. He's coped admirably with Crawshay, who was so vital early, and a couple of other games in Adelaide today. Sturt playing Norwood. You'd expect most games to be tight today, wouldn't you? The Redlegs by 5 points. And Port Adelaide, they're having a pretty tough season. The Magpies by 50.
Balls again down. Oh, again. Floriani just commits himself hard to the football. Takes another heavy knock. And Beveridge will give the free kick. Just taken high, Michael.
Just an untidy tackle there, Mason Rowe.
He's done this well today.
Exceptional ball today. A big man, he's taken a lot of marks.
7 marks.
7 marks. Sensational.
Just structure of his game's pretty good, isn't it? Sits on the back play and reads it well. The Eagles have opted to have Ken McGregor go with him for the moment as Hassel goes back towards the goals. The switching's okay. They won't be as direct as they possibly can, I would have thought, but they've found some space. It just happens to be on the far side. Brogan has Threadgold and some support there. Neiman did some pretty hard work. The Eagles will pump it back in the moment because South Adelaide just managing to get there in a nick of time with Turvey. And that's a pretty tidy piece of work as it goes across the line on the far side. 2-1 to 2-8. 7 points the difference. The Eagles are in front.
A pie and a beer on the hill watching a footy. There's nothing better.
There isn't. Colville nearly took possession. Webb does, gives it across to Hassel. He props and goes back the other direction. Long handball over the top, finds Mills. Mills, well, he's pumped this ball 45 metres, but again, Jamie Tape has been outstanding in these conditions this afternoon. Takes another mark, which he's had 60, and he's had 15 kicks and 7 handballs, so 22 possessions this stage of the game. Another kick comes here. Looks like Pearce taking the mark. He's 60 metres out and will just chip it up. Beveridge has given him an option.
Works hard, doesn't he?
He does. I've liked the way he's gone about his football this season. A couple of games I've seen him in early, but best on ground.
It's a pretty good story too with Hamilton. He tried to recruit him a couple of times in a row down in Hobart. Couldn't get him to play for him down in Tassie, so he came to South Australia and got him.
Well, they seem to be just kicking that ball a little bit further in the second half, so conditions are just starting to dry out. Not greatly, but just enough to be able to control the football.
I don't know if you can hear that at home. I can hear the slogging through our effects mic of somebody splashing around. Maybe the duck. So South Adelaide now to bring it back into play. They tend to favour that far side. This one's a little bit more down the corridor. Spot forward by Brogan. Talbot's been terrific. He pushes it towards centre wing. First there's going to be Tape. He's had a wonderful outing this afternoon. Mark was just saying, and look at that for some skill. Just picked it up. To talk about a seagull with a chip wouldn't be appropriate because he did it better than that. Then back on to the left side. Got the handball across the top towards Shirley, and Shirley's been pretty effective too. Colville. What's he doing there? Looked like he was running across the line, but still gets his kick away. Neat looking pass. No mark taken. off hands. Dillon. That's pretty close.
You're kidding.
That's pretty close. Well, as it's going through the air, I was thinking the umpire's getting in position for a goal. He can't be doing that. And Dillon gets his first. That's a really important goal. The Eagles are 3-9, Adelaide are 2-1.
Stephen, we talked about it earlier. Goal in the first quarter, goal in the second quarter. Could not buy a decent score. Then Jason Dillon, front and centre, in the right spot, has thrown it onto that natural left foot and floated one through. And the supporters, well, they're happy with the ABC as well as well.
We're just not even going to get close now to that all-time lowest score, are we, Mob? Because 1907, Port played Norwood, 1-4 to 5 points. We're blowing that out of the water.
And I believe that Mr. Mogridge has admitted to a mistake. It was actually 1909.
So Hassel comes up with the ball. We've got a game of football out here. Trainers are going down, slipping over, delivering drinks to their players. Murray, you just got to pick it up a bit cleaner than that, young lad. Second effort's good. He now needs to knock ball out, but Andrew Rogers will have none of that. He'll just slow up proceedings. His umpire again, they've been good this afternoon. They've let the game flow. Not too many ticky-touch with free kicks. They've sorted out pretty well. Hard conditions for both the players and the umpires. Again, the Panthers. And then get a score back. Eagles kicked 2 so far this quarter. The Panthers 1 through Osborne. So 13 plays 27, Michael. We played nearly 12.5 minutes into this third quarter. Looks like the Panthers are about to make another change.
14 points of difference. It's just starting to stretch out, isn't it? Even at this stage, they just wouldn't want to let the Eagles get too much further ahead, otherwise they won't be coming back. Around the body goes Hassel. This is pretty close, but it will bounce straight because it's a very, very wet day, as we've been saying. Straight on line, through from behind. They sneak a little bit closer. 3-9 plays 2-2, but it's still 13 points to difference.
Speaking of sneaking, Paul Meekins just climbed off the bench for South Adelaide and waiting for his first opportunity to have a run. Won't be long until the shorts are dirty and the face is wet, I wouldn't have thought.
They're going for the huddle. The Eagles, and then they fan and trick them all because they went straight to Neiman down the middle of the ground. I think that was fairly deliberate, just put a hand on it, had a look at Floriani, couldn't do it. Talbot, his kick is partly smothered. All, they try and work it out. That's tough in there. Slippery. A little cake of soap, that red ball at the moment, and Osborne's wrapped up by Shirley. Will have a toss-up just outside the centre square. 13 points the difference. We've played 13.5 minutes of this third term.
Again, Hassel came up with the ball. The Eagles' defence led by Rogers and Tape. They clear the kick. The player just came on, and if you can pick him out, the lovely white numbers on the back of the jumper. It's up to Cobb. Cobb goes for the spoil. As the Eagles players through Tape, also Robert Shirley. Just encourage each other. There's Chapman. A little perked. Ready for action. Hassel. Ground level, Meekin for his second session. Picks it up forward. Draper comes out pretty hard with it. Hall just goes, just knocks the hand away. Then gets the clearing kick. Who's down here for the Eagles? It bounces once. Crawshay is hit pretty solidly there by Matthew Kluzak. Rowe comes in with it. Crawshay and Kluzak behind. Have a little bit of a tailor-tate. Back with the action. Hassel just make sure the ball's out over the boundary. The crowd just starting to get involved. Very important stage of this game. The Eagles lead by 13 points.
They've got some real quality in defence, the Eagles. Rogers, Shirley, Tape, Stephen Hall. David Gallagher's back there at the moment, so they've got some runs, some rebound. They've played tight when they've needed to. And as if it's hard enough already with a wet day like this, South Adelaide have found it really frustratingly difficult trying to get through that Eagles defence. Crawshay has been very, very good. Hands it down, that's a push. Umpire didn't see it that way. Just trying to get it centimetres forward at the moment, South Adelaide. They do so. Turvey will be first there. Will he go off the ground? He does. But again, the boundary line beckons and it goes across.
South Adelaide just struggling to get some clean entry into their full forward line, aren't they? They just, the defence, as you said, Stephen, of the Eagles, they just tighten it up. And once they get the hand on their ball, they've just got such a high level of skill.
Cobb will contest the ruck. Neiman. Neiman gets his hands to the ball, only goes down as far as Turvey. Turvey up towards Draper. Well, Hall and Draper, I think they're in the same jumper nearly. They've been so close to one another. this afternoon. Hall only a couple of possessions. And for Draper, well, yet to touch the football.
Stephen Hall's got excellent evasive skills. Such a big man, hasn't he? He's just very well balanced.
Pearce taken without the football. Should be given the kick he is. The umpire calls play on. Comes up. Matthew Cluzak well up from half forward. Goes around his body with the kick, looking up towards Beveridge. Well, Morgan does well. He's too high in the best players this afternoon. Merton throws the ball to Morgan, had his back to him. Well, for Merton's luck, the ball has gone out over the line.
It's a pretty good effort from Beveridge too. He hit the ground, he was involved in the play, and then was good enough to read what Phil Merton was going to do. Made that second effort just so important.
Sikalella, that'll be a rarity, gets a tap out. He'll go the stats as a hit out. Free kick paid to South Adelaide. And one of the things that struck me as they had their last entry inside 50 was that they don't really attack the goalpost at the moment. They can get it in the corridor. That's a tough old kick, isn't it? Across the boundary line by Talbot and out on the full. First mistake for him for the day.
Yes, he's been very good today. He's been very solid. He's playing as a ruck roving role, but picking up a lot of his possession in that halfback, and he's in the game again now.
Sikalella kick. Got a log jam there at half forward for the Eagles. The umpire's going to take it and throw it up. Not sure what Matthew's upset about there. Maybe thought he should have got a free kick. 17 and a bit minutes gone. Third term, 27 plays 14.
Good excuse to wipe your hands on somebody else's jumper, I would have thought.
Well, the umpires aren't that brave today, are they, tossing it up? Why don't they have a crack at bouncing it, you think? South Adelaide, this time, it's their turn to overlap and run. Morgan, a bit quieter in the first part of this third term, gets the kick forward. Turvey's been busier. Handles it okay, looks to run and gets the overlap from Hassel. He goes towards the far side. Now, the new player under the ground that Mark mentioned before is Meekins. And he gets it forward. Just a chance now. Cobb swings around onto that familiar left leg. They're half a chance now, and do they need a score at the moment? They need a big score, a six-pointer. Rogers, he's pretty calm, isn't he? And I reckon he measured that within about, as you can see, a metre. Oh, Ando, you're looking a bit old, lad. Starting to look a bit worried.
He's done pretty well, though, coming into a club that hadn't had a lot of success over the last couple of years. Got the players on side, and as he said, he's enjoying it. Just dominates your life.
Cluzak just pushes Talbot under the football. Crawshay, who's had to rove his own ruck work the best part of the afternoon. Again, Talbot couldn't clear it. Colville's taken. Comes down to Rogers. You could smell the player coming at him. Chapman comes up with the football, needs support. Colville's in there again. Matthew Cluzak looks for the white line. All taken high there was Johnny Hassel. Should take the free kick. He wants to go on, but quickly there's a fight on behind play. Somebody, no doubt, has upset Matthew Cluzak in the change rooms at half-time. He's come out, fired up.
And Cobb's hurt too, I think, just backward of the play. Centre half forward. He's been moved up there to try and give them some bite across half forward. Taking the ball and doing it well as Dylan kicked the goal a few moments ago. Chris Cluzak couldn't quite get there. Steele swings onto the left leg and pushes it back towards centre wing. Florian did exactly the right thing and attacked it with some fervour. Dylan does okay towards the middle of the ground. It was dodgy. Tape couldn't quite take it and add to his possessions. And the Eagles have got some numbers and they push it back up to within about 40 metres of goal. Tough to mark. Cluzak couldn't quite take it with the one arm. Did okay. How's the umpire see that? No whistle. There's some hard work going on in there. Merton. And again, the boundary line.
Oh, you don't see too many players abuse the football. We just saw Andrew Beveridge inside 50. Well, the Eagles 20 more times than what the Panthers had so far in this game.
We talked about the Eagles' defence, but really, with those stats, the Adelaide defence has done pretty well also.
Clearing kick from defence by Threadgold. Judgy Holland should get there first. He's hotly pursued there by Murray. Got to him as he kicked the ball. Good work by Murray. Well, Colville, the Eagles got 3 or 4 players. They could share it here. The quick hands by Colville to Neiman didn't come off. Dalzanos ducks and weaves to Colville. Murray should clean him up. He goes to the ground again, Murray. Crawshay. A little bit of soccer, quick kick forward. I'm not quite sure how to describe that one. It's ended up with Sikalella. Sikalella just had at the time the option to Chapman. Chapman just laces it out beautifully there for Christopher Cluzak. We saw in the last quarter. Oh, Beveridge it is. So Beveridge yet to kick a goal this afternoon. Or in fact, any score. He's had 20 possession. One behind he has had. So Andrew Beveridge.
It's a big kick.
It's good off the boot.
It's a good kick.
When a player applauds his own kick, we know that it's another goal being brought up. And it does go to the Eagles. They move on to 4-9, 33. 19-point margin over the Panthers.
Yes, he's an excellent player, isn't he? As we said before, he's come up from Tasmania this year. He's won a couple of medals down in Tasmania. And he plays a lot in the midfield, but obviously just sneaking forward, getting some space, and just show that he's got the lead as well. But he really has been a revelation in this league this year. And at 25 years of age, he's still got some pretty good football in front of him.
Well, 19 points to difference. I was thinking before the Beveridge goal that South Adelaide really don't want to be having to score 3 goals to get in front in the last term. Now they need to score 4, and in the context of a game where they've scored 2 so far, this is starting to, if you don't mind me saying, slipping away big time for them. They need a score, and they need one very quickly. Threadgold's done some good work. Hands it back over towards Webb, and he goes wide. The run is okay wide. They just need to bring it back through centre half forward. Hassel. They've got Cobb there at the moment, but Hassel is going to go over the top of him. Has a look at a player who's second in line. It's Damazzi. The Eagles' defence really does very well in getting front spot. And as you can see with Hall, races away with breakneck speed, pushes it towards the far side. Now he looks out there for Chapman. But the boundary line umpires on both sides, I'd suggest to you, will have RSI before the day's out. They've done a fair bit of work.
South Adelaide's ability to just find somebody on the lead is just eluding them at the moment. We saw then there was just really no options as Hassel ran into the forward line.
Do you think they're pushing it too wide? I mean, they've fanned wide in defence, which is fine to get some space and some run, but I just reckon through half forward and full forward line they hit too wide.
We see the Eagles do the same sort of thing, but they're very disciplined in bringing it back into that hot spot right in front of the goal square, with something that South Adelaide just haven't got in their game at this point.
Rowe couldn't take the mark. Pearce quickly to collect. He picks that ball up beautifully. Rowe for a second effort. Nearly had Pearce, but the kick again. It's only gone as far as Talbot. Now, Talbot and Tape, my best 2 so far on the ground. High up was Damazzi. Front and centre there was Osborne. Couldn't take it. Slippery ball again. Crawshay acting as a rover. Nearly came up with that ball. Rowe looks to give off again. Mills. They need to go more direct, the Panthers. This time Morgan does. He unleashes with the right leg. Draper, where is he? Murray goes around. Holland comes up with the football. He's got Jamie Tape running loose. The kick needed to be good. It wasn't. And beats both Tape out over the ball.
Morgan, we saw a moment ago, 12 possessions in the first term to him. He matched it with Beveridge, who had 12 himself. Both a little bit quieter since then, but they've been quite effective and high up in their team's best players. Neiman comes off. Coming onto the ground is Nathan Young, so the height being replaced by the run. 24 minutes gone, 33 plays, 14 and 19 points. A long way back from here, Michael.
It is a long way back. You see Jason Rowe just sitting on the bench there.
Ball goes bottom of the pack, Mark, and it's been down there a lot. Really down there a lot as Hassel goes around the body. They need to be in front, get themselves some first access to the footy. Mills is clever. No one's back there except the Eagles players. They'll mop it up with Tape and away they'll go.
Jamie Tape racks up another possession. He's got no options this way, so he doubles back and hits back towards Hall. And what will Hall do? He looks at his options. The ruckman.
Can't have been too many options, mate.
Well, there isn't. Now takes off to take on Derek Murray. It's a high kick. Oh, big leap by Matthew Cluzak from behind. Talbot comes up with the football and then just was interfered with. No, he wasn't. Still pushing and shoving. He is with Darzanos. Over the football is Rogers. He wants to hide it up his jumper. He's done that, and we see David Neiman with a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, David Neiman's had a bit of a tough day. Started off with Simon Crawshay just jumping all over the top of him. Sort of fought back reasonably well, but it's probably time to get another smaller player on the ground, and one of the better players on the ground is that bloke right there in Dean Talbot.
Gallagher and Chapman did some pretty good work at half-back. I know we're going on about it, but that Eagles defence has been outstanding. Beveridge has been outstanding himself and pushes it inside the 50-metre line, well inside. Not quite for Chris Kluzak. Brogan now sent back to do some hard work. Kicking off the ground, but not quite connecting was Kluzak again. He gets it back, goes with a quick snap around the body and misses. Just offline and through for a behind. We've had a few of them so far, 4-10. Plays 2-2.
You just get the feeling when the ball pushes forward into the Eagles' scoring zone, there's a bigger chance of them to get a score than for the South Adelaide, who are really starting to struggle to find their way onto the scoreboard.
A couple of players that South lost before the game would have been handy for them. Kim Costa went up to the Crows, obviously. Blood rule coming off Turvey. Kim Costa out, Michael Dowdy out, and they would have been handy today.
Yeah, Marnie as well, very important contributor. And also Peter Johnson, their full back. Did a hamstring last week against Norwood. So Turvey comes off with the blood rule. Stagg comes on for another run. If we see Scotty Wood, good kick in. Rogers just there, clean take. Tries to push the ball forward. Mills running hard. Gives him the option. Talbot nearly took out the umpire. Well, Darzanos should take this. He cleans up quickly. Wants to go around Mills. He backs himself with great pace. Then gets the kick. Who's up there? Christopher Kluzak presented himself. Couldn't finish it. Sikalala takes it. Ducks the head. Nearly has his shorts pulled off. The umpire has blown the whistle. What's he going to give it to?
Toss it up.
Well,
that's too
hit me across the back of the back. I don't know. What was that for? It wasn't a dead ball. What happened?
It was. The umpire's got it.
Oh, forget it.
I think he saw
Get on with the game.
Sigalello just grab his head. Said, oh, I've got to blow my whistle. Then decided it wasn't worth a free kick.
Ball it up.
Ball it up.
Fair enough.
Nearing three-quarter time. Round 13 clash. 20 points to difference now. South Adelaide really starting to drag the chain a little bit. The Eagles, they just look the fresher at the moment. They're first at the footy, now inside their 50-metre zone. Working around and trying to get it is Dillon, and he finally does. He gets it via a free kick. Couldn't quite make the distance from there, I don't reckon, but didn't think he made the umpire aware of the fact that he was held.
Yes, through the shoulders, back, buckled the knees. Even though the hand was just resting on the hip. He's come away with a free kick.
Andrew Rogers just cruised out of screen there, 35 years of age. I've not seen him in action for a little while. There he is in the foreground. He just keeps getting better.
We commented last week, I've yet to see Andrew Rogers getting beaten in the 5 years I've been calling football.
Dillon, this could make it very, very hard for South Adelaide if it's not already. He's offline through for a behind, so 15 pings at it for the Eagles. They're 4-11. South Adelaide just 4 shots on goal. 2-2, 21 points the difference.
Yes, the weight of possession clearly with the Eagles. 175 kicks to 48. The handballs 91 to 63. If I was a mathematician, I'd add those up for you at home, but I'm sure you can grab a piece of paper and a pencil and do the work yourself.
Well, that's it then, three-quarter time, 21 points the difference. Michael, how did you see the turn?
Yes, again, it's the skill level of the Eagles and their structure. They've just got so many good players starting at their back line and then running it through the midfield. But Andrew Rogers, we've just talked about, the marshal of the whole back line. Stephen Hall at full-back has been good. And their half-back flankers in Holland and Pearce, you see on screen there. They're just so skillful. Their structure is so good. They run it down the flanks, cross it into the centre of the ground. And they're not kicking a lot of goals today because of the conditions. They really are building themselves up as a good football team.
Well, stay with us over the next three-quarters of an hour as we take you through to stumps here at Noarlunga Oval. Round 13 clash. The Eagles seemingly have it under control. South Adelaide with their work ahead of them. The margin is 21 points at three-quarter time on ABC Sport. One of the things about playing on a day like this is that you use up a lot of energy. There's lots of energy to get to the ball, to run through the slush, and South Adelaide might just about have used up as much as they possibly can, which makes it even harder to get back into the game, 21 points down. Mark Nailey, what do you think? Can they get back into it or not?
Very hard asked stage of the game with only 1/4 of football to go. The Eagles just at the moment are just playing better football. They're very clean with their possessions. When they do go forward, they seem to be going a lot straighter, and they do have players running into the right spot. But South Adelaide, I mean, to their credit, they're playing at home. They haven't lost a game here this year, and they really will come out firing hard, no doubt. Greg Anderson will be a very inspirational at three-quarter time beach, no doubt. I saw him last week. He really is in the, I'd say, the old Jack Odie and John Cale mould. He screams and yells a lot and uses the occasional rude words.
It's cathartic. It makes you it helps you feel a little bit better as the coach, if nothing else.
Well, he does get them spirited, but no doubt he's down there right now working very hard on that.
Well, you'll forgive me as I grab hold of a cup of coffee just to keep the hands warm. It's dropped a couple of degrees here. The scoreline at three-quarter time for that Greg Anderson talk. He won't like what he sees because they went scoreless in that second term. 1-1 to 1-1 to 2-2. There's some symmetry about it, but it doesn't look very good because it's compared at the moment to 4 goals 11. The goal kickers so far, precious few, of course.
Yes, we see there for South Adelaide, well, there's only had a 2 goal scorers so far, with Osman, the captain, with 1, kicked that in the third quarter, and Damazi with 1 for the Eagles. Well, singles there also to Dylan Beveridge, Christopher Kluzak and Spiro Darzanos.
Statistically, there's some players individually who, despite the conditions, have been fantastic. They've had people with like Tape and Morgan and Rogers and Beveridge have had lots and lots of the footy, but as you'd expect, the Eagles are well on top in terms of the overall match stats.
Yeah, kicks and handball, well, they're well on top there. Marks, they're pretty even. Free kicks, well, the umpires haven't had to blow their whistle too many times today. Centre square breaks or even the hit-outs is the real big contributor with the big Crawshay 29 up against the Eagles. A combination of Neiman and also the big fella McGregor with only 14. Inside 50, well, Stephen, 46 to 26, it tells you a lot.
Tells you a lot about the game. It probably also means that people like Talbot, it's the reason that they're the best players back there in defence for South Adelaide. Talbot's been excellent, so too probably Mills back there. They've done some pretty good work.
Yeah, so I mean, they had the ball down there quite a few times. As we saw, 46 entries so far for the Eagles, but I mean, the back line has had to stand up under a fair bit of pressure, but the Eagles' backline led beautifully by Andrew Rogers and Jamie Tape. I mean, to their credit, they, those 26 entries really have only resulted in a couple of goals. So, to the Eagles' credit, they've been fantastic back there.
Widen up the discussion a little bit. You've seen a lot of the Eagles this year. Can anybody beat them? I mean, we've seen them in dry conditions clean up people like the Maggies or teams like the Maggies. Now in these sorts of conditions, are very energetic and needing to win South Adelaide, but the Eagles have got it all over them.
Well, we talk about the Magpies over the last couple of years having players coming back come final time. Well, the Eagles this year, I think they've got Biglands to come back. They've got the Birdman. He's also Burton to come back from the Crows duty. So they really have got a little bit of class coming back come September time. But we've seen them a couple of times this year. They really have had a good balanced side with their big men performing. Christopher Kluzak currently leading the goal kicking list. And as I mentioned about their backline has been fantastic by their captain in Rogers. Tape back there also was Shirley, and also Hall at full back. He's played very, very well this year.
Well, I said that the goals were pretty hard to come by. One of them came in the first term, one of them came in the second term, and then we had a flood of them, if you don't mind me, as I said, using that term very loosely, and it came from number 14 for the Eagles, Darzanos, who straightened up, did all the right things and found the goals, and they're just so valuable at the moment, aren't they?
He's one of my little favourite players. I love seeing Spiro Darzanos. He doesn't start the game too often for the Eagles, but he does come on very early. But he's spirited, he's quick legs, and maybe he does waste it occasionally, but to Paul Hamlin's credit, he's kept him up there, just persisted with him, and he can at times be a match winner.
And one of the players who became very important, speaking of match winners in that third term, was Jason Dillon. We reckon that he might have just staged it a fraction, but at the same time, it was on. You just see him throw the arms back here in a second, and he went back and deliberately scored it. In fact, that's not the one, so thanks for setting me up there, guys. But anyway, it's a goal, and it's made a bit of difference because the Eagles at the moment, as I said, are 21 points up. And Mark, if South Adelaide are to come back, they absolutely must kick the first one.
Oh, it has to be. It's just imperative that they get the first goal on the scores today. But it's really, I mean, it has to start in the middle. Big Crawshay is getting his hands on the ball, but they need players like Morgan. I mean, he's done an outstanding job in the middle up against Beveridge, but Osborne Mills has been a little bit quiet today in my eyes. I've seen him play better games, but up forward, they just need to be a little bit more positive with their flow into forward, just have a little bit of space and get players into the right position. If that happens, well, the Panthers, they may just be able to sneak this game, but the Eagles, they're finals players, and they've been there before, and I reckon it's going to be pretty hard to top this afternoon.
Michael Parsons, what did you hear at three-quarter time in the huddles?
Yes, Greg Anderson, just a little bit disappointed with what was going on. Let's get back to playing our style of football, he says. Give the handball, shepherd, look after your teammates. Looking to go a little bit more direct in this third quarter rather than out wide. He feels that's the place that they've lost the ball a bit. Paul Hamilton, on the other hand, very happy with what's going on. Very impressed with his defensive players, as Weird picked out in the commentary box. looking for a special effort, he says, a special effort to beat this team on their own paddock. They haven't been beaten here this year. Just play accountable, look after your own man, beat your own man, and we'll win the game.
Good on you, Michael. Creating a windbreak down there. Michael Parsons, and the wind has just started to whip up a little bit as well, and it's coming, just judging by the windsock on the far side, pretty much straight across the ground. Start of the last term, big request here for South Adelaide. Can they do it?
2-2-14, 4-11-35. Crawshay up early against McGregor. He takes the ball out of the pack, then kicks it up forward. Coming out hard was Merton. Talbot again, sockers the ball forward. Chapman, I've liked the way he's gone about his game this afternoon. Handballs it back to Pearce. Pearce thrusts those legs forward, then kicks it up high towards Matthew Clusack. He's taken the mark he has out wide. Very deep on the half-forward line is Matthew Clusack. Looks for his brother. Up there also, number 12 is Young. Now, the concentration on the man's face. Constable Clusack pops it up high. The spore from behind came from Brogan. Nathan Young's down at ground level. He's sat upon by Scotty Webb. The umpire indicates the ball be thrown in. So in the first minute of play, the Panthers, well, they're having to defend once again.
McGregor and Talbot go at it. Osborne gets it off hands. His kick is partly smothered, so again we've got a big pack of players going at it, and I reckon that's gone across the line on the full. It has. The umpire's waving his arms about, and the Eagles get a chance to attack through the taped up Greg Chapman. Now he's tucked on the boundary line. Even on a good day, a dry day, that'd be a tough call to get it from there. So he'll be looking for some options, but there are 2, 4, 6, 8 players outside of the 50, which means there's a heck of a lot inside that forward 50 for the Eagles. South Adelaide have worked back in some numbers. That's not 10, so the umpire will call it play on. Working his way through, and doing pretty well too was Jason Bevan, and finds the boundary line on this close side of the ground. 4-11 to 2-2. Some hardy souls who have come down here to Noarlunga Oval this afternoon for the round 13 clash to see if South Adelaide can topple the league leader, the Eagles.
Crawshay again, front position, over the top of Pearce. Colville coming out hard was Bevan once again. Chapman, just neat as he was pushed over the line there by Jason Bevan.
He's just raised the eyebrows, didn't he? Said, no need for that, sir.
Wasn't much in it.
His eyebrows are raised for him anyway. They're taped up.
Amble wide by Pearce, comes back to Floriani. Floriani's hit as he's kicked the ball. Who's up there again? Big fly by Nathan Young, comes down to Colville. Colville, left leg goes high. The back is Young again. Being picked up there by Brogan.
What do you make of Brogan over this year? On the Port rookie list, the Port Power rookie list, and not promoted when Barnaby French was wounded, but seemingly has had a reasonable impact on the game today.
He's still probably a year or so away from playing some really good football, wouldn't he? But
yep.
He's just, he's a great athlete. He's 6'6". He's played National League basketball for a number of years. He's quick, he can jump, he's got good ball skills, but it's just that timing of the jump.
With all that stuff, he should be playing AFL football now.
It's a different game though, Stephen. It is a different game, and it's a harder game.
Sikalella showing his undies, comes up towards full forward. Clusack can't quite take it. He's been busy in that third term, Matthew Clusack. Chris a little bit quieter despite his goal early. Here's Matthew again around the body, and that ball has gone out of bounds on the full, so we'll have a kick in.
I suppose I could finish by saying you'd have to be an exceptional athlete to play both NBL and AFL football.
Well, if you want that self-adulation, that's okay. You can have a crack at that. Sturt are playing Norwood today, and the Redlegs, Sturt having a different season, aren't they? The Redlegs by 19 points at the moment. The other game is between Port Adelaide and the Tigers, and the Maggies have it at the moment by 36 points.
Well, back here, 14 plays 35. It's 21-point margin to the Eagles. We wait again. Players, again, congregate around the pack that's forming on the outer side. It's a high ball. Darzanos won't pull out of that contest. Well, this is the most football he's played for a game for a long while.
He's only had one short stint on the bench today, where in the last 2 or 3 weeks he's been starting on the bench and coming on in the second half as an impact player.
Gee, the Chapman's impressed me. These conditions, it's just like horses. Some horses like running in the wet. I think Chapman's one of those. He's been very good this afternoon. Gallagher spots a player loose. Did that beautifully. He can walk in here. This is dangerous signs for the Panthers if he kicks this. I don't think he has. The body language wasn't good by Matthew Kluzak. So another behind the Eagles. They now move on to 4-12. Bit of inaccuracy there this afternoon. But they still now lead by 22 points.
Yes, for those people that like to get a feel for how the game's unfolding by the amount of scoring shots, I think they're starting to tell the story.
Just think I spotted a few little skerricks of ice dripping off the front of the monitor here, boys, as Cicolella has a crack at it and misses outside the behind post, out of bounds on the full. And just a little bit of lip being given. How'd the umpire see that? I don't know that he actually saw it. Murray's off and is pointing to his hamstring, is he? Certainly feeling for it as Sika hits the deck. Ball by now's on the far side. Floriani chases after it, but to no avail. It goes across the boundary line once again.
And the other update we have at between Western Centrals at Adelaide Oval this afternoon. See the Bulldogs just hanging on to a 27-point margin. And as we said, the wind's starting to pick up. Not really favouring either end here. As the oval starts to dry out. Bevan should clean this up with Merton. Oh, socket off the ground there. Umpire lets it go. It was Matthew Kluzak. Some good exchanges of handball. Ends up with Colville. Colville back to Cicolella. Cicolella can't get it with Webb, who cleans up, and Gavin Colville played a very important part in the second half.
On a day like today, there's not a lot Greg Anderson can do, really, as far as positional changes. It's just everybody's effort, everybody in at the ball. See if he can string a few together, get some possession. He was very adamant that his players should try to lift their skill level. Hit the body was his call. But I was a bit surprised that he's asked them to use a bit more handball. Handball and Shepherd, he said.
Yeah, it's a strange thing on today. Neither side's been too afraid to use it. They've shared the ball up. Probably not overused it, but used it more than you would otherwise expect, particularly given how wet it was early. As we said before, the breeze starting to flutter the windsock around on the far side of the ground. That is directly across the ground, so it's not favouring either side. If anything, it's just having a bit of a drying effect at the moment as McGregor gets it forward. 19 possessions for Kenny. Off the ground with Dillon. Talbot's under some pressure because the size is not with him as Dillon goes for the line. And you'd call that just centimetre perfect if you're another commentator in another place. It's just about the ball game, I reckon.
You hear Mark Nailey dying in the background as he sees his beloved South Adelaide fall probably a little bit too far behind to recover. And Dean Talbot, being one of South Adelaide's best, just overrun the ball. Jason Dillon just got his foot to it, and that's going to make it very difficult now for South Adelaide to come back. But the Eagles, we've said it a number of times today, their little guys are just so highly skilled. Jason Dillon's one of them, and they're supplying the lead.
Sunshine, shadows.
Cigarella kicks up again. Coming out hard was Christopher Kluzak. Spalls behind. They kick another one through Matthew Kluzak. The umpire does not move. That's his first. And Michael Parsons. Well, I think that's just about the nail in the coffin.
Yes, I heard a soccer commentator in the week. Put the fork in. They're done.
Well, it's a pity for it to wind up because it has been a pretty fair contest so far, but the Eagles have just cracked them open. And Greg Anderson talking about handballing and use of the ball. They can do whatever they like now. They're not going to get back at the Eagles, who are at the top of the table. They're going to stay there. They're at 6-12 to 2-2, and time is marching on in this last term.
This bloke's been good.
He's tried hard against the odds, hasn't he? Hall, Floriani, it's a good tackle. Tries to get the slipper into it and can't quite. Osborne's kept trying. Just out of the corner of his eye, I reckon he saw Hassel. Handball. Now they're getting rounded up, and the shepherding was okay. To the far side is Threadgold. Ball started to bounce about a bit now, so we know that it is starting to dry out. Threadgold back inside 50. You can give him an entry for that. And the mark is taken by Andrew Stagg. Stagg, too far to score, of course, goes short. McGregor had it punched away from him. Nicely done on the feet. Wide. No opportunity for Darzanos, but he does hand it back. Attacking the ball now is Beveridge and Hassel. Hassel provides the protection, but Beveridge wanted it more and then scooped it to the boundary line. Umpire didn't like it, though. Free kick to South.
It's probably the best option in the end.
There's any player really committed himself for the ball. A little bit unlucky there. As a kick as in favour of the Panthers, Pearce ends up with it. He too just holding it up. He's had 24 possessions so far as young Pearce. Another one will Rogers. Only his second mark for the afternoon. Comes back to very waterlogged Andrew Beveridge. As the shadows appear here at Noarlunga Oval. The sun is shining. It's high. Matthew Cluzak. Talbot held without the football. Cluzak somehow got that football away from Talbot and kicks up. Webb used his body well. The back was Colville. Dillon's in there as well. Quick exchange of hands. 32 is Hall. Goes out wide with the quick. The foot race is on between Rowe and also Holland. The soccer off the ground by Holland goes as far as Colville. He'll just lapse a little kick back into Holland again. He went to give the kick. Decides now to give the handball to Gallagher. He 1-2s it, then turns and straightens the body. Kicks up for home. I think another goal to the Eagles. They're coming home full of steam.
Yeah, it's important for South Adelaide now to just continue to fight this one out. It'd be a very disappointing result if they just let it unwind from here after battling so hard all day against the leaders of this competition. But as soon as they get some space coming into their forward line, and a little bit of accuracy, they're starting to mount those goals up.
As I said at three-quarter time, they would have used an enormous amount of energy in getting back into the game, South Adelaide. Gallagher looking to the sunshine now, believe it or not. It was a good kick and went through from a very acute angle. Oh, that's going to give him a bruised chest. South Adelaide, bit by bit work it forward, but again, Gallagher is everywhere at the moment. That should be just about 25, it is. And David Gallagher will go 25 metres closer to the northern end.
Been very impressed with the way this young man has developed over the last half a dozen weeks. We saw him play his first game a little while ago, and he just seems to get better and better as the time goes on.
Yeah, he's been very mature. He's been up and back from the AFL side a few times. It's a beautiful kick. Chris Cluzak comes out 40 metres from goal. And with the ball just a little drier than it was early, you'd back him to make the distance from there. But David Gallagher's shown some maturity in coming back and not sulking. He's played well and consistently and keeps putting his name before the selectors.
The more I serve him, the more I think he's going to be a very good player.
Cluzak. Chris got one goal to his name so far. Got that in the second term. Wouldn't have believed this, would you? Sunshine out. If you were here earlier in the day, just before the game, we had a torrential downpour. Chris Cluzak just not quite carrying the distance. But Matthew, probably done that in the backyard a few times. Kick it up and let me take a screamer.
Yeah.
Through for a behind.
In a different competition, that would have probably been a free kick for placing the hands on shoulders and not taking the mark.
Cluzak will jump at it again. He thumps the ball. Good discipline by Matthew Cluzak. Morgan's in there. Morgan gives a quick handball across to Merton. Merton left leg. It goes on his right. Oh, tape again. In fact, it was Shirley from behind. Cobb, a chance for the Panthers. Osborne, he needs to take off. Goes out wide of the Threadgold. Threadgold can go back to Osborne. Doesn't. Goes over the top. Number 10 coming in is Nathan Turvey. What's he done with the kick? I think he may have pushed it. He has. It's a behind to the Panthers. Their first score for a long while. They go on to 2 goals, 3 now, 15. They trail by 40 points.
Even then, in their attacking movement, you see the Panthers tending to go a little bit wide. I thought Andrew Osborne could have had a shot on goal, but just moved the ball wider, and they keep going wider and wider and close up that goal front, making it very hard to get a score on the board.
Stephen Hall's played well today as Cobb gets it out. Osborne, quick kick forward despite some pressure, and Hall, read at the best, just sat back. He's got options aplenty. He's pushing as he goes to kick the ball. I'm surprised there was no whistle there, but Rogers probably got his heart rate up to about 35 or 40 by now. Goes to the far side, and the mark's taken out there. And the Eagles just settling things down with Darren Holland.
Well, it's come that time of the afternoon we start dissecting the game and looking at best players. Talbot's been very, very good in the losing side so far. Holland 1-2s it and takes it. So Floriani goes out wide. Crawshay comes into the contest. The Eagles have numbers. Rogers was there. Talbot looks like he's run out of legs. Coming in and cleaning up nicely with Threadgold. Threadgold goes back, broken. He goes one way than the other, and then was nearly taken by two Eagles players. Well, good vision there by Rogers. Couldn't quite find his target. And considering the conditions that we witnessed before the start of the game, the support here at Noarlunga Oval has been good.
Sikalella worked his way through the pack, and the kick was just about perfect to Kluzak. Chris Kluzak, who led right down the middle of the ground. Now, he was a bit further around on the last attempt. Couldn't quite make the distance, so I don't reckon you'd back him from there. Not quite this time, and again, in fact, it was Tape who's wandered down and had a fly at it. Through for another behind. So they've had plenty of them. 7 goals, 14. Plays 2-3. 21 shots on goal to 5. And with 70 more possessions, it probably tells you a fair bit about the day. I suppose early, the game was tightened up by the fact that nobody could really get a score on the board, but the Eagles have always been the more damaging-looking side as Threadgold gets it, kicks it towards centre wing, and South Adelaide try and mount something. As you mentioned a moment ago, they haven't really thrown in the towel, have they? They've kept trying, kept working, just not working for them in terms of the scoreboard.
So, well, they're an improving side. Just trying to build some, I think, with this club. And so far this year, they've done reasonably well. They're in the 5 at the moment. Have to wait for the other scores to determine whether they'll stay there or not this year, or after today's game. Pearce, quick exchange of handballs to Jamie Tape. What will Tape do? Overruns the football. Player held out the football. Osborne goes in for it as well. Jason Dillon, and he skates in to try to do that tackle. 1-2 again by Jason Dillon. Takes a good mark. Well, running down hard as Gallagher could sense that there was space. And he gets back quickly. It's David Gallagher. He looks a footballer, doesn't he?
With the player down in the middle of the ground, they've stopped play. David Gallagher's been told to stop just there for a moment before he takes on his 17th possession. Player across the far side, we'll pick it up in a moment for you. It's a South Adelaide player who's down.
Maybe Cobb. I'm just looking.
Speaking of players down, if you've just switched on to the ABC's coverage of this round 13 game, we lost Nick Pesh earlier in the game with a calf strain. And then early in the second term, Ben Higgins with a nasty shoulder or neck injury. He's been set off for some x-rays, but the doctors at the Eagles assure us that he's okay. And that looks like Hall on the far side. It is, who's down and not going too far just at the moment. So we've seen some of them get wounded today, men.
Yes, it's a very tough day physically. Hall had a reasonable day. 18 kicks and 5 handballs. So that is a good day out. And this is not a very pleasant way to finish it. But as I was saying, it's just a hard physical encounter, and even those boys that are still running around are going to come up fairly sore. A lot of body contact, a pretty good standard of football, considering we started the day and played most of it in about 6 inches of water. But the Eagles, over the course of the day, has just shown how good they are.
We'll just see if we can pick something up, Michael, as Hall comes in. Just a bit hard to pick it up there. It looks perhaps as though it's a rib injury or something like that. Would that be a fair guess, a wild guess?
Yeah, rib or maybe knee. Achilles.
Well, we've had our fingers crossed for the two Eagles boys that they're okay, and in particular Ben Higgins was carried off on a stretcher. Same fingers crossed now for Hall. Chris Hall, as he comes off the ground with the South Adelaide trainers. Coming on for him is Damasi, who's been off the ground for a little while. Tough time to come on.
A very tough time for Mark Damasi to come back on the ground. He spent a fair bit of time in the forward area early in the day. The ball hasn't been down there too much in the last quarter. looks like he'll go and take his position up in the centre of the ground.
I meant from the point of view that it's about 3 degrees.
But yeah, just the talent in this Eagles side now, Stephen, is it's really phenomenal. Just the collection of young kids that they've got, the guys that
Good
have come
balance.
into the for the Crows.
Asked Mark at three-quarter time whether he thought the Eagles would be beaten this year. It's early, it's round 13, but it's hard to see who is going to beat them because of that balance, and they'll get back some good quality for the finals, perhaps from AFL stocks. So it's all set up for them.
It is very much set up for them. They've got a pretty good coach in Paul Hamilton. He's got a good track record. Got some good results down in Tasmania. I think he won a premiership down there. So they really have got everything going for them. And probably the good thing for the club is that they've got a group of young fellows that will probably be around for a little while. Some of them will move on to the AFL, no doubt. But I think the Eagles have got a couple of good years in front of them.
Other games being played around the state this afternoon. See the Double Blues at home up by 6 points. And down at the Bay with the Magpies by 44 points.
It's a turnaround for Sturt, who've been trailing all day as we've been tracking that game. One of the trainers picked up by our cameraman down on the boundary side, suggesting that it might be a knee problem for Chris Hall. So as I say, we'll keep our fingers crossed for him. We're in the dying stages of this round 13 game here from Noarlunga Oval. It's been very, very wet throughout.
It's not a bad tackle, is it?
It's currently very, very cold as well, and the players just starting to play for some time.
Yes, Pearce, he's been very good this afternoon. 25 possessions so far in the game. 26 years of age. Starting to get a bit of experience behind him as well with just over 70 games. It's a high ball. Comes down to McGregor. McGregor straightens up, looks for Nathan Young. Oh, he should have taken that. Uncontested. Quick handball exchange. Ends up with Threadgold. Threadgold, a little bit of pace on his sides. Again looks to give. He sets up Scotty Webb. Threadgold, you need to make amends. He does. He comes up, another quick hand to Merton. Merton across to Mills. Mills, this time, gets the ball up into the forward zone. Couldn't be taken by Damasi. Still trying to warm up, I think, is Mark Damasi. Little soccer forward again by McGregor. Hasn't gone far enough, but the overlap, the support has been outstanding in the second half. We saw it again through Holland. Comes up with the ball. Couldn't find his target. Scotty Webb, right leg. Up towards Meekins. He slips over as he goes for it. Chapman, who's been very good this afternoon. Rose in there with quick hands. Couldn't get it out. Players desperate to get over the top of this ball. And eventually the man in white's giving the players enough time to get the ball out. Blows the whistle and we'll ball up.
17 possessions for Holland. Certainly been high among the Eagles' best players today. Merton, reasonably effective since he came onto the ground. Pearce really went at that ball with some intent. Chapman's there, thrown to the ground. That's how we saw Higgins get hurt earlier in the day. And we've got another bounce down or throw up, as the case may be, just inside the 50. Score check sees the Eagles at 7-14. South Adelaide at 2-3. It's now a 41-point margin, and that means that the Eagles are going to stay at the top of the tree.
Bluzak just tried to soccer. It's taken high in the tackle. Umpire calls play on. Quickly handball across to Chapman again. He looks to give off. Finds Pearce. Pearce off one step. Maybe should have gone back and steadied. Got himself balanced. Another score has been registered. And now we go out. It's a 42-point margin to the Eagles as the Panthers bring it back in.
South Adelaide reserves for interest earlier in the day. Kicked the grand sum of 2 goals, 3 as well. So 4 goals, 6 in 2 games of football. I suppose the conditions are, you get that, but at the same time, that's not many. It's not going to win you too many games, even if you're back in 1909, Moggy. 23 and a half minutes gone. 57 playing 15. This is ABC Sport. Next week, the cameras go out to Elizabeth Oval, where South Adelaide really are going to have to win, and they're up against a pretty hot and informed Central District who are doing a number on West Adelaide today. Inside the back half, into the front half goes the Eagles through Sikalella. Head over the ball, trying to do some work, does Zanos. He can't. The South Adelaide defence has kept working at it. They've kept trying. Floriani gets a look, had a player wide, finds him in the end, and they get a look on goal.
Well, screaming at the back of the pack there, beautiful vision. That set up Gavin Colville. He's 15, 20 metres out maximum. We just look at that. That's been the difference of the two sides this afternoon. Just finding a little bit of space. A couple of more options when they have gone forward. Gavin Colville yet to kick a goal this afternoon. He's had plenty of the football playing on the ball. Well, if he misses this...
What? He could be forgiven, given us a heavy ball, but he has got it.
He has.
That's his first.
That's his first to Gavin Colville. And now he'll extend the margin out to 48 points.
Yeah, I think given the conditions now, that's a fair whipping, and Greg Anderson would be very, very disappointed. South Adelaide came into the game needing to scratch and claw and get their way through a win if they possibly could against the top side and try and just firm up that spot in the top 5. They've not been able to do it. They now face going to the Ponderosa next week at Elizabeth, and Colville, the vice-captain of the club, has been very, very effective today for the Eagles.
Well, the Panthers need to score. They need to finish with a goal, give their supporters something to go to Elizabeth Oval with next week. The Eagles, on the other hand, well, they go to Adelaide Oval up against a very determined Blue side next weekend. And to come up again, Matthew Kluzak from 45 around his body, snaps up. Another behind to the Eagles. Now move out to 49 points. So 2-3-15. Play the Eagles 8-16-64.
Long kick in. Looking for and finding Scott Webb. I must say the ground's held up pretty well. We'll talk about a torrential downpour before the game. It was seriously raining. And as Mark said, probably 6 or 7 centimetres of water in some parts. But the ground's drained off pretty well. It's held up okay. Hasn't been a lot of wind. It's a touch cool, but otherwise, it's been all okay down here at Noarlunga. Andrew Rogers, first access at the footy. Perhaps a little unlucky that Andrew Osborne wasn't given a free kick against in terms of the push in the back. We'll have another toss-up just outside the 50-metre zone. 26.5 minutes. We're zeroing in on full time. 64 playing 15.
Crawshay again hitting the ball hard. There was Rogers, but Beveridge, just as determined, comes up with the football, heads it up towards Cobb. Cobb thumps the ball back. Again, the overlapping by Colby was good. He kicks it up to Matthew Kluzak. He's got players streaming down either side. The umpire has called play on. Matthew Kluzak goes one way. Now will be confronted by Brogan. Comes out wide towards Chapman. Just needs to turn the body around and set something up here. He does that and finds Christopher Kluzak.
Well, Matthew Kluzak's had 20 possessions, and I'd venture to say most of them in the second half of the game. Third quarter in particular, he made a real menace of himself. Presented a good target and has continued on in this last term, and now has given it to his brother, and with 1 goal, 3, would love to make it a couple and close in on the 50 goals for the season.
Well, they've kicked 4 goals so far in this last quarter. And this will be the 5th.
Talking about Matthew Kluzak, 7 kicks in this term, so he's worked very well.
He's done a very good job for his team, as we see his brother Christopher line up now. Technically perfect is Christopher Kluzak, the way he kicks the football.
Perfect.
And that was just perfect. So another major. Really has. The second half has been the Eagles. We saw them last week, just too strong in the second half over Norwood, after they were challenged in the first half. Again, the Panthers, well, they hung around for 2 quarters. They just couldn't maintain the pressure. If you're an Eagles fan, you'd be pretty happy coming all the way to Noarlunga and getting the points.
Oh, you would be happy. It loomed as a tough trip. And Chris Kluzak, a goal in the second, a goal in the last quarter. And that margin now out to 55 points. 9-16 plays 2-3. And we haven't had too many goals in this last term, and the last quarter's going on a bit. Perhaps a little bit of icicles in that timekeeper's box as well. A bit cold in there, can't find the button. The Eagles have kicked 5-5 this term. And that's a very, very good, it's a very powerful last term, isn't it? Shows a quality side. Another crack at it in the middle of the ground, big pack of players. The Eagles now, I suppose their only worry for the day is how their 2 wounded ones are, with Nick Pesh and Ben Higgins. I'll monitor them during the week. I suggest to you that neither would be very likely to start next week. That man, Jamie Tape, he's got a good physique, hasn't he, for footy? He's played lots of footy and he's built up very well. Look at that for a stat. 62 times inside 50. If you get up over 60, you've really hammered the ball in there a few times. South Adelaide 30. And little wonder they've struggled to get a score on the board.
They go again, a chance of Meekins. Left leg just pops it up in the air. Going back and reading it well was Hall. Couldn't quite take the fingertipper. Well, it looks like he's been sitting back to full back for too long. He's just about iced up. I don't think he's injured, he's just cold.
No, you would be. Ball's been up the other end for a fair bit.
So we're going to throw in a chance of the Panthers just to get a score before the siren does sound. Chance from Damasi. It's a high ball. Turvey's back there with Hall. Hall again just sees the ball out over the line. And he really has seized up. Look at him.
Yeah, I have as well. I'm not even out there. It's fair to say that that defensive unit of the Eagles is just a bit hard to crack. Hall, Rogers, Gallagher, Shirley. They've got some quality. Jamie Tape. That's a good back line. I mean, that's as good as probably any SNFL team has seen for a little while, I would think.
Yes, I mean, we mentioned over the last month of football when we've seen the Eagles, they've got a great balance. You talk about their back line, but the midfield's just as good with state players in Colville and Pearce. And their ruck duties by Biglands and also McGregor. They've still got good depth through the club.
And the Hall injury has, and Stretcher Job has just seen this quarter go on for a little bit longer, of course. Chapman, very industrious in this last term for him. Rogers, have a look at, I think Andrew was looking for the boundary line there, if I'm not mistaken. It's funny that you can be called for handballing it across the line deliberately, but not for kicking, isn't it? Because that was as deliberate as you could possibly get.
One day it'll happen. No doubt about that. He's had 14 kicks and 3 handballs. But the amount of times he's had to see the ball.
Touch of cynicism in your voice. Then it happened one day.
It will.
Why is that?
They'll change the rules. They'll get tired after a few years.
Sure.
Players try to change the game.
Grumpy old man.
No, they changed the game.
Jack Lemon.
The administration. It's out wide. Meekins is there. Morgan had to stop trying for most of the afternoon. Shirley's there, just pads it across. And Rogers just gets up. So the dying stage is here, 32 minutes. Won't run much longer than this. Crawshay, broken at the back. Coming again was Morgan, couldn't quite take it. They're still battling hard, the Panthers. Dylan overruns it, Morgan's in there again. Bevan comes up with brute strength trying to take it. And the Eagle supporters are pretty happy this afternoon. They've come down here, the flags are waving. And they were quite happy to sing the club song after a very good win this afternoon.
It's all a bit messy down there at the moment. There's the siren just to put an end to it. And a victorious Eagles side throw the arms up and celebrate. South Adelaide will trudge off this still very wet ground. And the final margin, 55 points. There wasn't much in it at quarter time, just the 3 points, but at the moment, well, an hour and a half later, it's 55 points the difference, and it underlines the quality of the Eagles. 55-point winners, 9 goals, 16 to 2 goals, 3. And as we said through that last term, South Adelaide have a really big task in front of them because they go all the way to the other side of town next week and play the Bulldogs.
Yes, it's a very important time of the year. The midway mark, the next sort of 4 or 5 games, when it does get pretty heavy, the rain is about, the ovals, a bit like we've seen this afternoon. You really got to start working hard and get some wins on the board. The Eagles, well, to their credit, they've come down here, they've travelled from Port Road down here to Old Noarlunga, and they've taken the points away from the Panthers, who haven't lost a game at Noarlunga this year.
Michael Parsons has got the wellies on. Where are you, Michael?
Yes, thanks very much. I'm right here in the middle of the ground with a very good player today, Andrew Beveridge. Andrew, you've come up from Tassie, a bit like Tassie conditions today.
Yeah, actually, the last game I played in Tassie, elimination final, was just like a day like today, and yeah, it's pretty tough out here, but the boys played a good 4 quarters today, and we came up with a good win.
Any particular instructions from Paul Hamilton before the game about the way to adapt to the conditions?
Yeah, Paul said not to play the bottom side, watch the wind, try and keep it on the top side and straight up and down the middle.
And the Eagles would be pretty happy right now. I think 7 in a row. Things are looking pretty good, particularly that defensive 6 you've got.
Yeah, the boys up the back are performing really well. I think we've got no standouts so far this year, and it's very even. We've got a couple of guys to come back in, so we're looking forward to the rest of the season.
Andrew, that wind is starting to come up. It's cold. I'll let you go and have a nice warm shower. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Well done, Michael Parsons. Quarter by quarter, as we said, South Adelaide not able to score at all in the second term, and that was pretty costly for them. Not many goals in that first half, just 3, and then the Eagles exploded, didn't they, in that second half?
Yes, we've just seen they adapted so well in that second half to the Eagles. And we just see the goal kickers, they come up for us. It was good this afternoon. A couple there, Jason Dillon and also Christopher Kluzak with a couple. But really has been an outstanding effort by the boys in the green and the gold and the blue as well alongside of it. They're getting a good round of applause by their supporters here. There's no doubt. Coach Hamlin next week goes to Adelaide Oval up against the Double Blues. We have to wait for a result there, but it's going to be a hard ask for the Double Blues to beat the Eagles, especially the form that they're sort of displaying at this stage of the year.
Yes, I would think so. In South Adelaide, how do you see their chances? Very, very quickly.
Well, very quickly. A big trip from Noarlunga down to Elizabeth Oval next week. Very, very hard to win out that side of town, but I mean, they've got a long game to go. They've improved every week that I've seen them so far this year. Today wasn't one of the best efforts. They lost a few players before the game.
Well, join us next week. David Mackay will be back in the chair. I hope you can join him and the entire ABC team when South Adelaide take on Centrals.